Today we're tackling a heavy but vital topic: the devastating human cost of the Kashmir conflict. Since the late 1980s, the armed insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir has claimed tens of thousands of lives: civilians, security personnel, and militants. Indian security forces patrol the streets of Srinagar, a city at the heart of this turmoil. But behind the images lies a staggering death toll. In this video, we'll break down the numbers, explore the trends in violence, highlight key events, and discuss the challenges of pinning down exact figures. This is a story of loss, resilience, and an unresolved conflict. Let's dive in. First, let's look at the total death toll. Estimates vary depending on who's counting, but all agree the scale is immense. Official Indian government figures, as of 2017, report around 41,000 people killed since 1990 due to militancy. This breaks down to about 14,000 civilians, 5,000 security personnel, and 22,000 militants. Earlier in 2008, authorities revised the toll to over 47,000 deaths since 1989, not counting an estimated 10,000 people who disappeared during the conflict. A 2011 Home Ministry statement gave a slightly lower figure of 39,118 deaths from 1990 to April 2011, including 13,226 civilians, 5,269 security personnel, and 21,323 militants. These numbers focus heavily on deaths caused by militants, often excluding civilians killed by security forces or those who vanished. Independent and human rights groups paint a grimmer picture. Human Rights Watch estimated over 50,000 deaths by 2006, including at least 20,000 civilians. The Jammu and Kashmir Coalition of Civil Society, a local group, cites over 70,000 deaths by the mid-2010s, factoring in crossfire, custodial deaths, and enforced disappearances. They argue a significant portion of civilian deaths resulted from security force actions. Separatist groups, like the All Parties Hurriyat Conference, claim the highest figures: 80,000 to 100,000 deaths since 1989, including missing persons presumed dead. Despite the range, the consensus is clear. The conflict has killed tens of thousands, with conservative estimates exceeding 40,000 and some approaching 70,000 when all victims are counted. Let's break it down by group. Civilians have suffered terribly, making up roughly 1/3 of the toll in official counts. The government attributes most civilian deaths, over 13,000 by 2011, to militant violence, with a smaller number, a few thousand, killed in crossfire or by security forces. But human rights groups highlight extrajudicial killings, crowd control actions, and custodial abuses by security forces as major contributors. By 2006, Human Rights Watch already noted 20,000 civilian deaths. The conflict also displaced communities like the Kashmiri Pandits, who faced a mass exodus in the 1990s, showing the civilian toll goes beyond fatalities. Militants account for the largest share in official stats, around 20,000 to 22,000 killed by the late 2010s. Indian forces have neutralized thousands of local and foreign fighters, especially in the early 2000s and late 2010s. In 2018 alone, over 250 militants were killed, the highest in years. Militants make up about half the total deaths, reflecting the intensity of counterinsurgency operations. Security forces, including the Indian Army, paramilitary, and J&K police, have also paid a heavy price. Over 5,000 personnel have been killed since 1989, with some reports citing up to 7,000. The deadliest years, like 2001, saw over 600 security personnel killed. Major attacks, like the 2019 Pulwama bombing that claimed 40 paramilitary lives, underscore their vulnerability. The numbers differ because sources define categories differently. Official counts focus on terrorist killings, while human rights groups include deaths by all sides, like protesters shot or detainees dying in custody. For example, in 2018, JKCCS reported 160 civilian deaths, while the government cited only 37, highlighting the gap in who's counted as a civilian. Now let's trace the timeline of violence. The conflict has had distinct phases. In the late 1980s and 1990s, the insurgency erupted, making it the bloodiest period. By 1990, over 1,100 people were killed, as militancy exploded. The mid-1990s were the deadliest, with 1996 seeing around 1,113 civilian deaths alone. By the decade's end, over 30,000 had died. Key events included the 1990 Gaukadal massacre, where forces fired on protesters, and the Pandit exodus. The 1999 Kargil conflict added military deaths, though it's sometimes counted separately. The early 2000s remained violent, with 2001 seeing 613 security personnel killed amid events like the parliament attack. But after 2003, violence declined. A ceasefire along the line of control and peace talks reduced infiltration. By 2008, civilian deaths hit a 20-year low at 89, with total deaths a fraction of the 1990s peak. The 2010s started quietly, with 2012 and 2013 at a 25-year low. But unrest grew after 2014, fueled by local terrorists like Burhan Wani. His 2016 killing sparked protests, leaving 100 civilians dead, many from pellet guns. By 2018, violence hit a decade high, with 586 deaths, including 160 civilians and 260 militants. The 2019 Pulwama attack, killing 40 personnel, escalated tensions, and post-Article 370 revocation, a security lockdown curbed large-scale violence, though sporadic attacks continued. From 2020 to 2025, the conflict has simmered at lower intensity. Annual deaths are in the low hundreds, with 262 soldiers and 171 civilians killed from 2019 to mid-2024. Militant deaths continue as operations persist. Violence is now more targeted, with fewer combatants than the 1990s battles. But flare-ups, like targeted killings in 2021-2022, show the conflict isn't over. Key events driving spikes include the insurgency's outbreak in 1989-1992, the mid-1990s militant peak, the 2001 parliament attack, the 2008 and 2010 protest deaths, the 2016 Burhan Wani unrest, the 2018 Operation All Out, and the 2019 Pulwama attack. These moments, from massacres to suicide bombings, have shaped the toll. Getting exact numbers is tough. Government data, like Home Ministry reports, rely on police records, but may exclude custodial deaths or disappearances. The South Asia Terrorism Portal tracks fatalities, confirming the post-2000s decline. Human rights groups like JKCCS use surveys and testimonies, catching unreported cases like over 300 custodial killings or 1,000 disappearances. Media like Reuters and Hindustan Times summarize these, noting the 47,000 toll in 2008 or 41,000 by 2017. In summary, as of 2025, the Kashmir conflict has likely claimed 40,000 to 50,000 lives, possibly more. The 1990s were catastrophic, the late 2000s saw a decline, and the late 2010s brought spikes. Each number represents a life lost, a human tragedy amid a complex dispute.